To this now, the South African Institute of Race Relations has shunned the amended Employment Equity Act and draft employment equity regulations. The institute says these have been ineffective. It accuses the act and regulation of favouring the needs of the elite few instead of easing the suffering of beneficiaries. Research fellow Gabriel Crouse joins me now to expand on this. Thank you very much, Mr. Crouse, for your time here on eNCA. Just firstly, you're not the only organisation that has shunned upon the amended act. Just tell us exactly which part of the act you have a problem with.
I think it's fair to say that we are frustrated with its foundational value, the very beginning. If you want to look in the law, we're most frustrated with Section 15A, which is what was introduced through the new amendments to say that effectively Comrade Minister Ncesi has the power to set racial targets across the workforce, in effect across 85% of the workforce. It's estimated that companies employing 50 people or more are covering 85% of private workers. We know from Stats SA's quarterly employment survey that came out yesterday that those jobs numbers are down even further. We are, unlike most of our peer competitors, poor emerging markets, we are losing jobs after COVID and after the return to business from lockdown. And we think that a big part of this is that Minister Ncesi has imposed already regulations on the labour sector. The rest of the government is using race now for a quota on water. We see drives against property rights with the expropriation bill. There are many ways in which the reigning party is trying to reshape society, but the cost is that the money is running away. Domestic investment, foreign investment, all of the money is running away. And you know what runs after money? Jobs. So when the money runs away, the jobs run away. And I guess if you want to put it like this, maybe it's a good way to think about it. When race law started dominating South African employment in 2007, with the introduction of real codes enforceable under the BEE Act, although employers could still choose their own targets, at that time, black unemployment was 10 basis points less than it is now. In other words, then it was roughly 24, 25%, and now it's 35%. So for poor black people, they are more likely to be unemployed now as race law has been rolled out than beforehand. And I think that's because unemployment in general has gone up. And I think that's because in general, the government is chasing away the money. So what we're saying is this law overall, its problem is it's going to make poor black people poorer, while white people, colored people, Indian people, black people, anyone who's politically connected, well-educated, grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth, belongs to the tenderpreneurship elite, yeah, they're going to do okay. But for the poorest of the poor, things are going to go from bad to worse.
What do you make, Mr. Crouse, of the fact that the Act is seemingly giving the minister more powers? It's more power to identify, for instance, the national economic sector. It gives him or he or she more power to also set the numerical targets for each sector as well. What do you make of the powers that it gives to that ministry?
Oh, the powers of decree to this man who's the Deputy National Chairperson of the South African Communist Party are astonishing. He has set the target for 0.0% in 136 cases. So there he's saying already if there's no one, there's no colored women, no Indian men, whatever, in that province, in that sector, it's already enough. Zero is enough. People can start rejecting you because zero is enough. And we know in the case of Jelani Naidoo in the South African police force, she applied for a job to be station commander in Krugersdorp. Her peers said yes, the right person for the job, but the police force said no. The ideal target for Indian women at this level is zero, so you don't get a job. And it went to court, and the labor appeal court said, yeah, that's how it works. Life's tough. If you're an Indian woman and the ideal number for you is zero, then go to another province or wait for another target to be drawn. If you look at the other targets that Minister Ncesi has drawn, he has put the target for black men lower than the actual current average in 6 sectors. He has put the target for black women lower than the actual numbers in 9 sectors across the country. Now, what does that mean? Maybe we should look at the case of Advocate Nkumisa Mayosi, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the first name, who was refused her position at the Legal Practices Council. She got 138 votes, but another man, a colored man, he got 30 votes. So 130 versus 30, but he got the job instead of her. Why? Because the rule said we only want one black woman, one black man, one white woman, one white man. We've got our quotas. That's our system. Doesn't matter if you get more votes as a black woman. If another black woman's already there, one is enough. So that's what happens when you are already over target. Now, Minister Ncesi has said for black men in 6 categories already over target. For black women in 9 categories already over target. You go through Indian, colored, white. There are so many people who are going to be over target in this thing. What has been given to the minister is a pencil, an old-fashioned apartheid pencil test to drive lines across this country in order to refashion it according to what he thinks would be best. But this is not how reality works. In reality, it's just going to chase away money, chase away jobs, maybe make a few rich people richer as the lawyers squabble about all of this. But I think for ordinary working people, and especially for those who don't have work, it's just another nail in the coffin, frankly.
Yeah. Well, you know, the ministry seems to be adamant that the amendment will make sure, particularly for employees with a larger workforce, there is, you know, opportunity for everyone, diversity, equal opportunity, diversity, etc. They're saying they're pushing that. They are so adamant with that particular reason, and they're saying that they're even, you know, going to introduce a new way to assess whether employees are following, you know, the law when it comes to diversity in their workplace. You don't believe that?
If BEE, if race law was good at creating new jobs for black people, then black unemployment wouldn't have gone from 25% to 35% in the era of BEE. And in terms of these new creative things that they're imposing, you know, this law says every company with more than 50 people has to have someone who goes to gather the information about what is the racial composition of this company. And to me, I find this extremely concerning. There's no real criteria for adjudicating this. How is it supposed to work? We already know in the New South Africa there have been cases, including at news stations, where people were said to be white when in fact they were colored, because it can be difficult to know exactly who is white and who is colored just by looking. The apartheid regime knew that, which is why they had their bloodline mad scientists running around doing all kinds of experiments to figure out who is who and what is what. In the absence of that, if someone says what their race is, but the employer disagrees, how is that dispute supposed to be resolved? How is that person working for that company whose job it is to go and gather this information in new and creative ways? How are they supposed to do that job? I can only see 2 options. The one option is to return to apartheid. And we've noticed that the Home Affairs, the new draft bill on Home Affairs, for the first time since 1991, puts the word race back into the law about what Home Affairs is supposed to track. So that is one route that we can go down, which is very ill-advised. The Institute of Race Relations was founded in 1929, in part to oppose that 90 years ago. We can't go back to that. The other option is that you must just listen to people. Whatever they say their race is, if they want to say unicorn, rainbow, all of the above, none of the above, then you must defer to what they say. Now, I think that is maybe where we have to go, but in that case, it's going to show that this law is just foolish, because if anyone wants, they can just classify themselves one way or another. I don't think that the new and creative ways that the department is suggesting we go about things is going to amount to anything other than a return to old-fashioned racial classification, and I think we have to stop that.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for speaking to us about this particular issue. Very important, especially because the amended act comes into effect in September of this year, and still a lot of people are saying that it actually is going to make things worse than make them better. That was the Institute of Race Relations Research Fellow Gabriel Crouse speaking to us there.